Hello, everybody. This is Matthew Brand. Welcome to the Amethyst Podcast. And I was thinking about the best way to go about this podcast or audio blog, however you want to put it, because to be honest, I have such a broad range of topics that I want to discuss. But also, to be honest, it's a little too broad. So I was thinking, what category would fill the necessity or the want to talk about such a variety of things. And then you have a couple of categories such as self help. But self help kind of comes from a position of, hey, my life is going great, so let me tell you how to be more like me. And very often, either the person providing that advice is not where you would want to be in the first place, or they're kind of spouting it in an impractical way. And sometimes the things that they offer are helpful, but then it has to keep going. It has to keep going and going and going. And then they run out of the stuff that's helpful. Then they start inviting other people over that have opinions, and then the opinions overlap with each other. So, for example, may have one person who tells you, "Oh, the best way to lose weight is to run every day," and the next person tells you shouldn't be doing any running at all. You should just be losing weights, or sorry, lifting weights. And then the third person tells you, "No, just be comfortable in your own body. You shouldn't be trying to do anything, but do the things that you enjoy." And you get these overlaps. I've seen this even like medical stuff. Like you get people who offer very base medical advice, and it's not that it's bad whatsoever, but they can only offer so much of their own advice and what they specialize in. So they invite other people who specialty, but those people who specialize that they invite in to talk to, which isn't a bad thing, but sometimes they conflict. So what very often works is you have people like Joe Rogan, who he brings over specialists, and instead of just giving them the floor, he interviews them. And that's a great idea if you're Joe Rogan, because he has a lot of connections to people because of the different avenues that he fits. I fit different avenues as well, but I'm not. He was already, I would basically say, a celebrity comedian before he got to that position. So it kind of helps with the large connections. But what could I do that will fit all these variety of topics? And I thought about it and I thought about it, and it's not something I haven't thought about at all doing, but it's something I'm hesitant to do because I really don't fit what I would think um, is the would say the quintessential mm, position to really be preaching about it. But still, nonetheless, I don't really think anybody does, and that is, well, I don't want to say preaching, but ministry. Talking about life subjects is essentially what ministry is all about. And I do think that that would be a category that I could talk about and talk about wide variety of subjects, because Christianity is something that is still on the plate for me to talk about, and it's something really important. And as a matter of fact, it is something I've been writing about recently. I don't know if it would turn into a book or not, but it is something I have been writing about, and I'm going to be talking about it anyway in one way, shape, or form. I do talk about it on a daily basis. I am involved with my Christian lifestyle on a daily basis, but I am not what you would call, and I would never want to pretend to be, what you would call a model Christian. I don't know if anybody is, but I'm probably farther off the mark than a lot of people. However, that doesn't mean that there are subjects that um, don't need to be talked about that very often I don't really see talked about, unfortunately. And I think the problem is because we don't let people talk about it who aren't model Christians. And then we do have, certain so called model Christians talk about it, then we find out they're not model Christians anyway. They're putting on the front, and this front stops them from being real about the issues that are at hand, because they're always kind of demanding these, I don't say donations, but they're demanding a lot of their members and staff and whatnot. And you have such a variety of people. I mean, you have prosperity preachers, you have people who um, I don't want to say theologians, but people who basically do a strange type of apologetics. Like they talk about what's going on in the Bible, they explain it for people who may have a hard time struggling or understanding a certain thing, and they're way more connected. But as far as life situations, there was a pastor I remember talking about that. I believe he came from a church called I want to say Mars Hill, and I know a lot of these non-denominational churches are connected in some type of strange way, like they all have this little niche and fitting for each other. But what I would say is I don't have, you know, the people who really get talked to by regular, amongst regular humans, like regular humans talking about Christianity. You have atheists who talk about why it's, you know, I don't want to say, I really don't want to say the words like, but unintelligent to believe in such a thing. Then you have people of different religions kind of saying similar things. Then you have, again, people who are preaching essentially to the choir, no pun intended. They're talking to people who already believe what they believe in and maybe providing answers to perhaps a question that they had. And that's great. I'm not trying to step on that. And I'm not saying it's wrong to step on that. It's just that's not my field. But there are a lot of things that aren't being answered by kind of a everyman from a Christian perspective. And I am a Christian. And even though I'm not a model one, perhaps it could be like a journey to become a better one. And so I thought perhaps maybe more of like a everyman ministry would be a better thing, but it does sometimes kind of make it hard because when you're not the uh, very close to God, as close as you can be, um, when you're really working through a lot of things, sometimes it makes you get this imposter feeling like, who am I to talk about such a thing? You know, who am I to address so many life issues when I don't have it all myself? And that is kind of the thing is like you're told not to, you don't really need to be uh, preaching to a church or, service about how to get your life together until you get your own stuff together. And that is something that they talk about in the New Testament. So I'm not trying to fit that category. However, I am just trying to open discussion for things as a Christian that we can all talk about and maybe some solutions to make the world a better place. How's that? So that I believe is the direction that I'm going to be taking with this channel. I am still going to be talking about a variety of subjects, and yes, it will still include cigars and booze. So if you're Baptist or Mormon, it may not really be the something you may enjoy, or it may be a reason for you to change the channel. But the last thing I want to do is lead people astray by telling people that hey, this is something that's completely okay, and sound like I'm trying to change people's minds on what it is to be a Christian. These are just lifestyle habits that I have, and I don't see a problem with that. There are habits I have that I do see a problem with, and I could change and I could be better about. There's a lot of that with everybody. One of the things I do have an issue with when it comes to a lot of modern Christians is they've become um, what is the word for it? But holier than thou isn't really the word, but when you have Christians who they see their sin as okay, but they see other people's sin as like the worst thing that ever existed in humanity, right? Like if you have some people who will do drugs, but if another person likes some girl's Instagram pic, they're just they equate them to Satan, and it's kind of insane. So I don't want to be that person either, but I think this is one way for me to talk about why spectrum of things. So uh, I'm still going to keep the name of the channel, what to change it to Amadeus, but um, I think it's going part of the brand change is going to be a not necessarily religious podcast, but ministry podcast, or audio blog, however you want to place it. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Peace out.